Of the Lake Forest Zoning Board of Appeals. The board is here tonight to work together with all of you, property owners, neighbors, architects, to continue the tradition that allows community members to work together to preserve the qualities and the unique character that make Lake Forest a special community. We recognize the personal importance of each petitioner's request. Our goal is to respect the requests of the owner while balancing the interests of the community as a whole. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Zoning Board of Appeals, the board hears all requests for variations in zoning and special use permits. The City of Lake Forest is committed to conducting open meetings. To achieve that goal, the board has adopted meeting procedures that are ensure that all parties have an opportunity to speak. The procedures are detailed on the agendas available at the back of the room. This meeting is also broadcast on cable television. Speaking on behalf of the entire board and city staff, our goal is to move each petition through the review process as quickly as possible, while at the same time balancing the interests of the petitioners, neighboring property owners, and the larger community. So I'd start with, first with an introduction of the board members and staff, starting to my right.
Mark Pasquazi, 4th Ward.
Louis Pickus, 2nd Ward. Lloyd Culbertson, 4th Ward.
Bob Frankson, 1st Ward.
Jay Kennedy, 4th Ward.
Rich Plonsker, 2nd Ward.
Kevin Lewis, 3rd Ward.
Michelle Frederick.
All right. So the first item on our agenda is actually not on our agenda this evening. In November, we lost a good friend. Richard Christoph was a colleague of ours on the ZBA and served on this board since May of 2011. And at the following ZBA meeting, we all discussed what we remembered about Richard and the qualities that we recalled. And you know, I think at that time we kind of discussed what a fine lawyer he was, how he had a love of culinary arts and fine music. But in my book, it's probably the little things that you remember about people that really kind of exemplify who they are. I remember Richard sitting to my right and feeling just so comfortable with him, even though we had only kind of met here on the ZBA. It felt as if we had known each other for many years. And I just naturally respected him and enjoyed working with him. And when we kind of arrived downstairs for dinner each month, it was just good to see his smiling face and see him walk in the room, and a gentleman that I really appreciated. His wife Mary is here tonight. We have a plaque for her, but before we do that, I just ask if any of the other board members here would like to make a few comments.
Well, you mentioned something that I always remember Rich for, and that is his smile and his warm greeting every time you encountered him. You just felt at ease and felt comfortable, and felt as though you were meeting with a good friend. In addition to serving on the ZBA, Rich is a neighbor of mine. Rich and Mary live 2 doors away. Mary still lives in the house. And Rich served on our Homeowners Association board for many years, and with distinction. What can I say? He's a good neighbor. He's a good citizen. He was a good friend. He's just flat out a good man. And I think we're all better for having had him among us.
Thank you. Exactly right. So, Mary, we do have a plaque, and I'd just like to present it to you. It's a pretty small token, but he was a personality that we haven't forgotten about, and we kind of carried on with us, and we thank you for sharing him with us to serve on this board. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. He really enjoyed this committee. I don't know why, but he did. He loved the challenge. He loved just chit-chatting with everybody, kind of problem solving, and just listening to what everybody had to say. So I will tell you that he did look forward to it and enjoyed it. So I thank you all for that and for your kind words. Oh, sweet.
The next item on the agenda is actually approval of the minutes, which we do not have tonight, so we're going to continue that matter till the next meeting. The next item, actually, well, no, let's go ahead and do this. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a request of a side yard setback variance to allow an addition to the existing residence and garage located at 347 Cherokee Road. The owners are Eric and Elizabeth Leckberg. Their representative is Sean Purnell, architect. I would first ask if there are any declaration of conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts. Anybody intending to give testimony to this matter, if you would stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? All right, thank you. We'll move on to presentation by the petitioner, Mr. Purnell, I'm sorry. Actually, your mic may not be on. Is that little red dot at the bottom? Little red button. There you go.
There it is. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Sorry. I have to apologize for the Leckbergs. Lisa was planning on attending this evening. She called me a few hours ago. She has a very high fever and is home with a child, so I'm on my own this evening. The petition here is regarding a small addition that affects several areas of this existing home. Primarily, we are here to consider the front corner of the existing home where the petitioners would like to add a extension to the garage. The primary drive for this is the desire to add a mudroom and a laundry room to the floor plan that was never intended for that use. And because of this, the garage has to come forward a small amount, a little more than 7 feet, in order to accommodate this use. This causes conflict because the existing home is situated too close, 24 inches too close to the existing lot line. The lot, as noted by staff, is a non-conforming width for this zoning. So because the first floor of the home encroaches 2 feet, we've done everything we can to keep the bulk of the improvements that the homeowners would like to undertake out of the setback. But when it comes to the garage, we have an issue because if we do comply, we pull the front corner of the garage in 2 feet to comply. Unfortunately, the garage is non-functional. There isn't enough room to provide structural stability for a 2-car garage, and the parking width is not adequate. We had considered moving this required mudroom section back into the home in order to not instigate this conflict. Unfortunately, because of the existing kitchen layout and design, it's practically impossible to make that use occur in the midst of the home. In addition, this sunroom here is a cathedral volume ceiling, which affects both the addition on this level and the proposed addition above. So we felt that really there was not a choice but to ask for a variance regarding this small section of the garage. This would allow us to maintain the current width, which is a functional width for this garage. The garage would be held to a minimal standard depth. We're trying to be responsible, obviously, with the quantity of variance that we're asking for here. So this is a minimally satisfactory 2-car garage that we're attempting to build. On the second floor, the addition, after discussions with staff, was modified to comply with the setback, as was the proposed sunroom to the rear of the home. So all other aspects have been modified and compromised to the extent that they match the required setback. This includes the overhang, the eaves, and the construction of the interior space. In order to deal with that volume ceiling space, there's a bit of an unusual condition, but one that has been discussed with the Building Review Board and creates a very pleasing quality to the exterior of the home. But there will be an effort made to retain the cathedral ceiling. The second floor will actually step at this location, and this area will be used for an internal closet and storage where the floor height can be stepped into. It won't negatively affect the space of the master bedroom. This does a couple things. It allows us to preserve the character of the existing space that the homeowners greatly appreciate and didn't want to compromise. And then secondly, when we look at the proposed side elevation, it allows the width of the addition on the second floor to mimic the offsets of the overall existing gable, which lines up in a symmetrical manner. This was a modification that we made after appearing before the Building Review Board and responding to some of their comments about trying to tidy up this elevation similar to the existing and hopefully improving, modifying some of these unusual window shapes and sizes and trying to make that a little more cohesive across the board. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about our request.
All righty. Moving on to staff's report. Michelle.
Thank you, Chairman Frankson. This house was built in 1960 and hasn't had much significant work done to it since then. It's part of the Campbell's Lake Forest addition, which was subdivided in the 1920s. So it does, as Mr. Purnell noted, it does not conform with the side yard setbacks because those requirements have changed over the years, as well as it does not comply with the minimum lot width of 100 feet. The project, as he noted, is larger than just the variance request before you. The Building Review Board did hear this petition at their October meeting, continued it for some changes, which Mr. Purnell noted, and the garage addition piece is the variance request before you. They're looking to maintain the existing side yard setback that the house has now, which encroaches 2 feet into that setback as they bring the garage to the north about 7.5 feet. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All righty. We will move on to questions from the board, starting either side.
I just have one. It's just really a question on number 2 in the findings of fact. I'm just not clear as to what it says is the conditions upon which the variance is requested, including the original siting of the house and the changes, are generally unique to this neighborhood and to this property, and are not generally applicable to other properties in the same zoning district throughout the city. I'm just curious as to why, what that means.
It means that other lots may conform with the setbacks in that zoning district. In particular, this one doesn't, either with setbacks or, in this case, with the lot width, because the subdivision occurred prior to the current zoning regulations.
So are the lot widths, as I look at the aerial overhead, are the lot widths of the properties to the west about the same width? Or did they
Actually, if you
conform?
could clarify, the lot widths, yeah, in here, they're supposed to be 100 feet, correct?
Correct.
And this is 70?
76 in the
75. It's a 75-foot wide.
Yes.
Is that really the issue, that just the lot widths are so narrow?
That is part of it, as well as where the house was sited. When it was built in what today is inside the setback.
And I would just add, that finding really goes to the combination of factors for any particular petition. I think in this case, the fact that the garage is involved in the proposed addition to narrow the width of the garage at the front of the garage does make it non-functional as a garage. So it's a combination of the factors that Michelle mentioned, as well as the fact that what we're dealing with here is a garage that necessitates a certain width, whereas if this was a bedroom, perhaps you could take 2 or 3 feet off of it. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Must be some questions. I have one. I always try and oversimplify these things. Tell me if I'm wrong, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna hold this up. The area that we're really talking about is this little piece of the garage that's 7/8 by 2 feet, correct? That's really what's being requested for a variance here.
Yes, that's
Because,
correct.
because the whole front of the garage is kind of outlined in yellow, and it's a little misleading, but it's really the little sliver, the 2-foot sliver on the end of the garage.
That's correct.
So the proposed mudroom is part of the existing house now?
Is that right?
It is not. The existing floor plan has just a garage that backs directly into the living room. There's no transitional area for family with younger kids. This has become obviously a very hard area of the home to use, and the expectation on a contemporary home that you'd have a transitional area, including a laundry room that's not in an unfinished basement, was most of the necessity for this addition.
No, I understand that the mudroom is going to be new, but the area where the mudroom is going
I
is part
apologize.
of the existing house now.
No, it's part of the existing, what is the garage now?
Rather, part of the garage, right?
So we'll be bringing that floor up, making it part of the home level,
Right,
and the
right.
garage will start from there.
Right. So it maintains the existing outside of the house, which is over the setback line.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All righty, we will move on to public testimony, not to exceed 5 minutes per speaker. Very good. No cross-examination. I assume no final questions from the board. Why don't we move on to final comment and discussion? Anybody? I've got a hard stop at 9:30, so.
Looks pretty straightforward to me. I don't see any objection to this.
Yeah, I mean, the existing garage is non-conforming. The architect kind of gave, some evidence that they thought about shifting things around, but if you're trying to move a whole garage, it seems like a hardship to me, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really see any issue with this. I mean, it looks like about 30 feet of the house is already encroaching, so you're adding a few more. I mean,
Yeah.
no issue with the appearance. It's nicer than it was even. I would be inclined to support it.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Would somebody like to make a motion on the petition at 347 Cherokee Road?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application as presented with the staff recommendation as noted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jay had the second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Congratulations. Good luck with your project. Moving on to the opportunity for the public to address the Zoning Board of Appeal on matters not on the agenda. Thank you. Additional information from staff. We have a change of date for the next upcoming meeting.
Yes, just to confirm, the November 23rd meeting will be canceled, and the date of the meeting will be Tuesday, December 1st.
That'll work. Thank you, everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second?
All's in favor? Aye. All's opposed? Meeting adjourned.